to stay informed. Sure, you can find all kinds of sources for information and commentary, but when you want them from a Christian perspective, turn to The Stand. Whether you choose to read the online blog or get the print version delivered to your mailbox, you can rest assured you'll receive factual news and biblically sound commentary. Find out more today at afa.net/The Stand.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. Rioters in Los Angeles are attacking law enforcement and civilians, looting stores and blocking freeways. But who does Los Angeles Congresswoman Maxine Waters blame? The National Guard, of course.
What are you going to do? You going to shoot some kid? He's afraid of getting run? You going to shoot an elected official? If you shoot me, you better shoot straight. I don't know why you're in my city. You did. The governor was not contacted.
Borders' our Tom Homan reacts to this irresponsible rhetoric.
How this riot started is that ICE was serving a series of criminal warrants at a business being investigated for money laundering, customs fraud, and serious violations on sending money to criminal cartels. So we were arresting bad people. So that's exactly what ICE did. And ICE took a lot of bad people off the street that day. We arrested a sexual predator, arrested gang members, arrested somebody that had an armed robbery conviction. So we made LA safer. The men and women at ICE, the men and women at the Border Patrol made LA safer that day. But you're not hearing any of this. All you hear is a rhetoric about ICE being racist and ICE being Nazis and terrorists, and Governor Newsom feeds that.
Former Los Angeles County Sheriff Alex Villanueva says if law enforcement in LA had done their job, there wouldn't have been a need for National Guard troops.
Came under attack because they were doing their job. They appealed to local authorities to help them, and they declined to assist. And that is both the LAPD and the LA County Sheriff. And the sheriff is the one who is responsible for mutual aid in LA County during times of unrest. And what do? Nothing.
Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton says President Trump is within the law by federalizing the National Guard and sending in the Marines if necessary.
The National Guard, they're traditionally operating under governor's authorities, can be federalized and can be used by the president to restore basic order and to enforce federal law. That's what Dwight Eisenhower did in my state in the 1950s when a Democratic governor refused to integrate Little Rock Central. What's provocative is to have all of these illegal aliens setting cars on fire while they wave the flags of foreign countries and now being joined by professional agitators from Antifa or pro-Hamas sympathizers. That has to stop. President Trump is committed that it's going to stop today. If Democratic mayors and governors can't do it, then the federal government will have to.
Meanwhile, ICE agents are being compared to Nazi stormtroopers by Boston's Mayor Michelle Wu, and they're being threatened with doxing by the House Democrat Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries.
ICE agents have taken to wearing masks when rounding up illegal alien criminals because leftists are taking pictures of their faces, identifying them by name, posting their home addresses online, and making death threats against them and their families. But to Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, the masks are because the agents are, wait for it, Nazis.
Folks getting snatched off the street by secret police who are wearing masks.
In Washington, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is, of course, well aware of the threats to ICE officers, but he's chosen to side with the doxers.
Every single one of them, no matter what it takes, no matter how long it takes, will of course be identified.
Randy Sutton, author of the book Rescuing 911, says Jeffries is playing a deadly game.
It is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when an ICE officer or his family will face death or serious bodily injury.
He calls it callous.
They literally don't care about the lives of these officers. They seem to revel in their disregard for the lives and the welfare of these men and women.
Sutton is waiting for adults to take control of the Democrat Party.
The Democratic Party has no respect at all. There are no adults at home. They're all a bunch of petulant children.
I'm Steve Jordahl.
The Senate preparing to do rewrites of President Trump's big, beautiful budget bill, with some senators calling for more federal spending cuts. New York Congresswoman Claudia Tenney says she agrees the bill is not perfect, and is fine with some revisions.
We have to get this done so we can see immediate relief to the American people. And if you split it up into two bills, this has been the conversation for several months, you'll have no bill and the tax cuts will expire and you will see the largest tax increase for the American people.
For American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh.
If we lose this cultural war, we're going to have a hedonistic, humanistic society.
Discover the story of the culture warrior Don Wildman and how he went head-to-head with Hollywood, Playboy, the homosexual agenda, and the Disney empire. The movement Don started paved the way for Christians to boldly stand for truth and righteousness in a hostile culture. Watch Culture Warrior today for free. Visit culturewarrior.movie.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network. Today's Issues is the name of this program here on AFR. Tim with Fred. Good morning, Fred Jackson.
Good Monday morning.
And Chris Woodward.
Good morning.
And we thank you for listening to AFR. Everybody have a good weekend?
Had a good weekend. Had family in town visiting and had a wonderful time. Wonderful time.
Yeah. Chris?
I did. So, it was a little nasty there Saturday afternoon for parts of our TV viewing area, but I praise God, didn't have any damage to report or whatnot. It was just really nasty for a good hour and a half.
Trees down, branches down, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
We were at a local restaurant when the storm, and it only took about 15 minutes for this front to get through. But
Hurricanado.
It was wild. And we had a baseball tournament in town this weekend, and they had just come into the restaurant to eat, and all the menus, the lit menu across the top went down.
Yeah.
They couldn't order any food.
Wow.
They lost power.
A couple of campers overturned at a dealership not far from here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was brief, but it was really nasty.
Intense. All right. Well, hope everybody had a nice weekend.
You were baseballing.
Yeah. Well, my 11-year-old grandson.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody needs to tell me how many grandsons I have. I'm not sure exactly, but the 11-year-old one.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm just kidding. But we are getting on up there. But yeah, they won their state championship in baseball.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, the Knights.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were very excited about that. Watch them play.
And you said there were 16 teams?
In Starkville, 19 teams.
19 teams.
19 teams in their classification.
Mm-hmm.
And they won. They were 6-0 in the state tournament, so they won it all.
That's a lot of baseball.
Yeah. Well, you can tell. Look at my arms.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of baseball.
Mm-hmm.
But it's fun. Youth baseball, youth sports is fun if it's
kept that way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kept fun. That's right. Yeah. All right, Chris. They aren't having a lot of fun in Los Angeles, are they?
Speaking of intense moments, National Guard troops continue efforts to help bring in an end to the anti-ICE riots in L.A. that have seen the blocking of a major freeway and setting self-driving cars on fire as law enforcement used tear gas, rubber bullets, and flashbangs to control the crowd. President Trump over the weekend said that he was going to be sending in National Guard and law enforcement because of the shenanigans people were doing to law enforcement officers. Trump said, look, if you do so much as spit on law enforcement, we're going to send people in here. Don't take my word for it. Clip 3.
They spit, we hit. And I told them, nobody's going to spit on our police officers. Nobody's going to spit on our military. Well, we're going to have troops everywhere. We're not going to let this happen to our country. We're not going to let our country be torn apart like it was under Biden and his auto pen.
Yeah, it was bad. A lot of our listeners probably have seen some of the images coming out of Los Angeles. This started out as a protest against ICE immigration officials, they've been doing various things across the country to arrest, detain people who are in the country illegally. And they were running an operation in Los Angeles, ICE was. It started out, I believe, on Friday. And you had these protesters show up. Now, the police chief out there in Los Angeles, Jim McDonnell, I believe his name is. McDonnell. He said he recognized some of these protesters from other protests. In other words, there was some of the protest rent-a-crowd that was involved with this. But things got very violent very quickly. And police came under attack out there. They fired back not bullets, but some rubber bullets, et cetera, et cetera. But here's what has developed, and Chris probably have more on this, is that Governor Newsom is upset with President Trump for bringing in the National Guard. And the mainstream media is now starting to spin this, that the National Guard is the problem, that Trump should not have sent in the National Guard. They're saying it intensified things. In fact, Newsom is going to court today to try to get the National Guard out of there and accuse Trump of doing something illegally.
We do have some audio from Governor Gavin Newsom. Now, this was yesterday or late Saturday, saying he was going to be filing a lawsuit against the Trump administration over this information Fred just mentioned. Clip 4.
Donald Trump has created the conditions you see on your TV tonight. He's exacerbated the conditions. He's, lit the proverbial match. He's putting fuel on this fire ever since he announced he was taking over the National Guard. An illegal act, an immoral act, an unconstitutional act, and we're going to test that theory with a lawsuit tomorrow.
I got to say, some of the reporting on this, I guess this is not going to shock you guys, but some of the mainstream reporting initially on this was mostly peaceful protests.
Yeah.
Okay? It kind of reminds me of the anti-police protests in Minneapolis. Remember, I think it was CNN. Burning building behind the reporter, mostly peaceful protests.
Mm-hmm.
And as you just heard there, Newsom is saying this is Donald Trump's fault. Wouldn't have been a bad protest, which is just nonsense.
Yeah.
All right. So this started Saturday.
I think it was late Friday night.
Okay, late Friday night. So just so people understand what's going on here, ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
Correct.
Is that what? Okay, that's what ICE stands for. So they are doing raids across the country.
Yes.
And are going to houses, or going to wherever they need to go to make arrests.
Yes.
True?
Correct.
Okay. So they're making these arrests, and now of people here who are in the country illegally.
Mm-hmm.
And only they know why exactly, the ICE, but it has been related to gang activity, or members of drug cartels, or trafficking, or just bad criminals.
Yes.
In addition to being here illegally.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there's been the reaction is against ICE doing this, because the left in this country views them as thugs, I guess you could say, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're thugs to the left because they are sent by Trump, President Trump.
Correct.
So they're his thugs.
Yes.
And they're trying to arrest people and deport them, and these protesters don't want ICE in their community. Now, they don't represent the whole community, but they do represent a significant, looks like to me, portion of them. These folks are blocking a major highway in Los Angeles right now. I'm watching this on TV, and it looks to me like maybe 300 or 400 people there. I don't know. But that's all it takes to get out in the middle of a highway and block a highway. So this is going to be, I don't know how this is going to be resolved, but what President Trump has done, he called out the National Guard,
mm-hmm.
which despite what Governor Newsom said right there, President of the United States does have the authority to call out the National Guard in various states, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. And Jonathan Turley, who is a legal expert you see on Fox a lot, says exactly that, Tim. Cut number 5.
Certainly, there have been plenty of these cases where they have forum shopped, found very favorable judges. But in the end, the president has the authority to call out the National Guard, and it will happen. In fact, what Newsom is doing is going to escalate it further. You know, the president is operating under Title 10, which allows him to call out the National Guard to enforce federal law. That's what they did during the desegregation period when local authorities refused to comply with federal law. Does that sound familiar?
That's right.
And with the administration is saying, we're going to do the same thing. It can escalate with a thing called the Insurrection Act, where the president can actually use National Guard where there's an insurrection. I don't think we are really looking.
Yeah, so this a very tense situation there.
Yes.
In Los Angeles, I mean, you this could escalate. We'll see what happens today, but it's a very volatile situation in Los Angeles over they're calling them LA riots.
Yes. We're now seeing a pattern in Democrat politically controlled areas. Remember last week, the mayor of Boston saying, shame, shame on these immigration officials for wearing masks. Now, they're wearing masks for a reason.
Right.
Because they don't want the bad guys to identify these people, dox them, find out where their families live.
Right.
They're doing that to protect themselves.
Right.
But not only him, Hakeem Jeffries, who is the minority leader in the House.
Yes. The interesting thing about the shame on you for wearing masks is that both Massachusetts and New York have been home to anti-Semitic protests on places like college campuses where rioters wore masks to protect their identities, and these Democrats didn't say diddly squat about that.
Yeah.
Why are some of these demonstrators waving Mexican flags?
Well, because a lot of the people in the country illegally are Mexicans.
Yeah.
But I don't understand waving the Mexican flag when you're in America protesting.
Yeah, but I think it's a different mentality that these, pro-illegal immigration centers. Remember, California, it's a sanctuary state. Mm-hmm. They don't have a problem with bringing in illegal immigrants and giving them jobs and paying for their health care, paying for their education. But what's really interesting, Newsom, in the last month or so, is saying, we're running out of money for Medicaid.
Right.
They're doing all of these sorts of things. So California has been this hot spot where these illegal immigrants, the state government has opened its arms, spending millions of dollars to support these illegals. Yeah. And now that ICE wants to come in and bring some order to all of this, now they're protesting against
There's
Trump.
A part of me that just says leave California alone.
Yeah.
Because let them deal with all these people here illegally.
Well, the problem with that is you have people in the rest of the country, taxpayers, that are going to have to foot the bill for repairing all the buildings and whatnot destroyed. I mean, nobody in Connecticut should be.
No, but I'm talking about anyway. Again, I'm just thinking out loud here, but I'm just like going, hey, if California wants to let everybody in the world come live in their streets, go for it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. I know.
Yeah,
I know.
Why risk our ICE agents' lives or National Guard to take care of a problem that Californians don't care about? But you are talking about federal law. This is federal law, and also, some would say, well, if you allow cartel activity to take place in Los Angeles, that affects the rest of the country. That I'm just saying, I can see the argument there, but one time I said, well, listen, if they want to let people in illegally in these sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, let them have at it.
Yeah.
But I understand the reasons why you can't take.
If you could build a wall around the sanctuary cities,
right,
keep them there.
Right. But you know what is interesting to me? A couple weeks ago, I don't know if you guys saw this statistic, and I don't have it right here in front of me, but that President Donald Trump was polling better now with Hispanics,
yes,
than he had been, 6 months, a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's happened, so you wonder, the narrative that the political left in this country wants you to believe is that because President Trump is cracking down on illegal immigration, and the vast majority of illegal immigrants are Hispanic, therefore he is he hates Hispanic people.
Yeah,
that's the narrative.
Yes,
that they want to project. But as it turns out, at least for now, the Hispanic community in America is not buying it. At least not like the left wants them to. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, we have millions and millions and millions of hardworking Hispanic people in this country who have entered the country legally, who for years family businesses have built up. They hire people. They produce products for this country, which is absolutely fantastic. And these people are as upset as everybody else with these folks who have broken the law to enter this country and now are taking advantage of the opportunities that this country affords immigrants, but they're in the country illegally. Yeah. And so these Hispanics, they, like most other Americans, are saying this is not fair. It's not fair.
Right. And it's unsafe, quite frankly, to just let people pour into your country. You wouldn't let people into your house that you didn't know who they were.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then they break down the front door, and you're supposed to say, "Okay, y'all, come on in," and we're not gonna do anything about it, you know.
And they break into your house, and they demand you feed them, take care of them,
right.
And by the way, if you try to remove me, I'm going to go to court.
Right. Yeah. Right. All right. So anyway, it's a very tense, volatile situation today in Los Angeles, and we'll see what develops here. Hopefully, it'll disperse with the use of the National Guard there. I'm seeing the National Guardsmen, and they have weapons in their hands.
Oh yeah, I mean they were shooting like rubber bullets at people. And people were posting on social media over the weekend. I was shot by the government, and they were showing these big whelps they had on their arms and legs.
Let me ask a question about the National Guard that I know 90% of our listeners are going to know the answer to, and I'm going to seem like a dummy, which wouldn't be the first time. But I'm going to ask it anyway. Maybe you guys know the answer to this. Is there a tactical force within the National Guard that is prepared for something like this? Or is it just general National Guardsmen, who have regular jobs, who get a phone call, hey, you got to go to Los Angeles, and they live in Northern California, or what? I don't know what the case may be. That's probably not true. Probably got enough guardsmen in Southern California, I'm sure, to handle something like this. Doesn't look like there's but maybe a few hundred. I don't know how many years out there exactly. But in terms of the training.
Yes, they practice crowd control.
All of them?
Mostly. From my experience in Canadian military, one of the things we did in officer candidate school is crowd control.
Okay.
So it's something to be ready for.
That all military people go through.
They rehearse this.
Okay.
And they know what to do. Okay. So they're not going in there like the first time, what do I do? They know crowd control, how to discipline themselves. They are there usually just to push back against the bad guys. But if the bad guys respond in the wrong way, they have the right to defend
push
themselves.
Back and be a visible show of law enforcement.
Yes.
To intimidate the situation.
To keep the peace.
Keep the peace, the law and order.
Yes.
Right. You're listening to Today's Issues on American Family Radio. Next story. Chris.
Well, I want to bring people's attention to something that happened on Friday afternoon and then got covered up by all the...
By the way, nobody's died in this situation yet, have they?
Not that I am aware of yet.
Okay.
But certainly we will update that. We'll be on that on AFM. But something else that happened late Friday and got covered up by the situation in Los Angeles. On Friday afternoon, Attorney General Pam Bondi breaks in, has a press conference with reporters in Washington, D.C., and she announces new charges for Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He is the so-called Maryland man that was deported to El Salvador months ago, and Democrats are saying his due process rights are being violated, even though he's an illegal immigrant and has been living here illegally without our permission. Anyway, Attorney General Pam Bondi announces new charges for him for transporting illegal immigrants across the country. And she said he was a high up in this scheme. I've got some audio here from the Attorney General, clip 10.
The grand jury found that over the past 9 years, Abrego Garcia has played a significant role in an alien smuggling ring they found this was his full-time job, not a contractor. He was a smuggler of humans and children and women. Abrego Garcia is a danger to our community.
Now, perhaps they were busy, Tim, but Democrats were largely silent on Friday afternoon, Saturday, and Sunday when it comes to these new charges against the man they were kind of trying to hold up as
Maybe he'll want to stay in El Salvador.
Yeah.
Huh? I'm kidding, but so they're bringing him back, and then he's going to face federal charges.
Yes, and they will then probably either hold him or send him back to El Salvador.
Yeah.
This is an interesting case. You have these Democrats going down to El Salvador, and the news media from America right behind these Democrats, and Democrats describing this guy as just he's a husband, he's a dad, he's a nice guy, and he has not been afforded the legal process that he should have received, all of this sort of thing. Now he's coming back. Now there's going to be a trial. And now that's going to come out, just as Pam Bondi was just saying there, this guy has been involved, in fact, leading illegal operations to traffic men, women, and children in this country. What are the Democrats going to say to that? All of a sudden, the image of Mr. Garcia is going to change publicly very quickly.
You know, all these problems were caused by Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Namely him, when he did away with all President Trump's policies that he had in place prior to Biden taking over in the White House. Biden then just vindictively or stupidly just said, okay, get rid of everything Trump did to prohibit people from coming here illegally. In other words, let's just throw the doors open, let everybody come so that I can spite MAGA and Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Without any thought much to the consequences. I don't think they would have cared much anyway. The consequences of letting some say 15 million people come here and just go all over the country, and we don't know who they are. We don't know. They're just, and now many of them evidently, we're finding out are bad guys.
Yes, bad guys. But Tim, you have pointed out numerous times in the past, this was no accident. That this was an operation by the Democratic Party to get,
and they would do it again if they could.
More people in here, so they'll eventually vote Democrat.
Yeah, that's the goal.
Yes.
You say, well, why would you let the floodgates open on your own country? Talk about the Democrats. Don't they care about our national security either? No. Well, they might say they do, but they care more about letting people here illegally, hoping that they can make them become citizens. Then they will be obligated to vote Democrat, and that will be the death and end of the Republican Party as we know it. That's the political objective to Biden and the Democrats doing away basically with our border during their 4 years in their administration. But the backlash was this was an issue that hurt the Democrats, namely Kamala Harris, when she was going up against Donald Trump, because he won that debate.
Yes.
And Americans said, yeah, we got to stop this. This is nuts. So we need to vote in the guy who says we need to stop this. This is nuts. And that would have been Donald Trump. So to the extent that Trump is doing what he said he would do in terms of cracking down on illegal immigration, this is one of the main issues that the American people, at least the majority of the American people, did vote for.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, hopefully the things will subside there in Southern California. There won't be any deaths. And what are they doing with these cars?
They're just these are driverless cars.
Okay.
That you've seen, and the bad guys have been ordering these cars to come to specific locations, and then the bad guys set them on fire. Very, very dangerous.
Just to be disruptive.
Just to be, because these cars are driven by lithium batteries. And when lithium batteries, which is why airlines get you to remove batteries, lithium batteries get on fire, they release toxic chemicals.
So they're driverless cars.
Yeah.
That like an Uber or a taxi cab, and they the bad guys call them to the place and then they set them on fire.
That is correct. Yeah.
Wow. We'll be back momentarily. Stay with us.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
The carpenter from Nazareth had about him some very definite human qualities, for the very simple reason that he was very definitely a human. Two of those qualities stand out. Without them, life can hardly be worth the effort of living. The first quality which the Galilean had, and which we need, is that in every bad situation he saw some good. Things must never get so dark that we cannot still see the light needed for living. It was a bad situation that Christ saw the tax collector Matthew in, but Jesus saw the good in Matthew the man. It was a bad situation when Peter ran out on his Lord, but Jesus saw the good in Peter, even the faithfulness and steadfastness. Jesus even nicknamed him the Rock. The cross was a bad situation, man's highest contempt for God, but Jesus saw the good which could come from it. The second quality of Jesus which you and I need is this. In every problem he saw a possibility. In every problem he faced, Jesus sought and found some possibility through which he could bring honor to his Father. Faced with the problem of traveling through Samaria, a country avoided by the Jews, he used the occasion for the possibility of revealing who he was to a sinful Samaritan woman at Jacob's well. Faced with the problem of worried disciples on the Sea of Galilee in a storm, he found a possibility to show the power and concern of God. The secret here is that we strive to be like Christ. In every bad situation, we need to look for the good. If we look for the good, we will find it. If we look for the bad or look to find fault, we'll find that. Thoreau Harris once wrote, "Look for the beautiful, seek to find the true." No person can honestly call himself a follower of the Galilean who continually looks only for what is wrong. Jesus was a positive person who believed in the power and the goodness and the concern of God. He believed in a God who could and would help in every situation. We also need to look for the possibilities in every problem. John Wesley, with the church doors of England closed to him, turned reluctantly to preaching in the open air. It opened a whole new, exciting, and extremely rewarding way of life to him. There's an old saying which contains much truth. Every adversity hides a possibility. We can actually turn bad problems into good possibilities. Pilgrim's Progress was written in Bedford jail where John Bunyan was a prisoner because he preached religious toleration and freedom. The famous preacher Charles Spurgeon once said that many men owe the grandeur of their lives to their tremendous difficulties. Occasionally, when our vision is blurred by problems, we cannot see sights which at other times are so clear. When this happens, we need more than ever to remember that the oyster turns into pearl the sand which annoys it. In every bad situation, look for the good. In every problem, seek the possibility. If you'll do these things, they will help you live and love it.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble, and he knows those who take refuge in him. Nahum 1, verse 7.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Thanks for listening to AFR. Tim, Fred, Chris, and now John Riley joins us. Good morning, John.
Good morning.
So, I wanted to ask you. You have a grandson that plays baseball.
I do.
Right.
Yes, he plays travel ball. That is Cooper Troxler.
Yeah. So John knows the.
Mm-hmm.
He knows the circuit.
That's right.
They have. I mentioned earlier in the program. Not that I was bragging. That my 11-year-old grandson's team won the state championship in their classification for youth baseball in Mississippi, and they're the 316 baseball.
That is so cool. And
on
on
their uniforms.
On the back of the uniform?
On the back of the uniforms, it has "For God So Loved the World."
There you go.
I had John 3:16. So
great
anyway.
testimony.
All right, so we it helps us beat the pagans. You know what I'm saying? a lot of pagan teams out there, and we show up with 316 baseball, and
they just leave.
God gives us favor.
That's
right.
right.
All I can say. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, folks. Don't email me about theology. Because my theology is I don't think God cares who wins a baseball game.
Yeah. And then you have Wake Forest Demon Deacons, whatever that means. Yeah.
I always say I don't think God cares who wins a ball game. But he does care about the people on the field and in the stands.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Amen.
All right, you're listening to today's issues. Well, on a very serious note, we're here to talk to John about something that happened. Why don't you tell us about it, John?
I was supposed to be in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas today all the way through Wednesday for the Israel Summit, which is actually organized by the Israel guys. It's the media arm of HaYuvel. And this organization, they're based in Israel. And what they do is they simply bring in people to Israel to, pick the vineyards and plant trees and to, help Christians connect with the Jewish people. And they're right located in the heart of Samaria, which is a very important part of Israel. And so I was supposed to be at the summit where it was a gathering of people from Israel and from the United States that would come and just share their love for Israel. There was going to be survivors of the October 7 massacre that were there as well. And then you had former Ambassador David Friedman that was going to be there. You also had former Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann. So the bottom line is last week they began to get threats, high-level threats from the FBI, local law enforcement, of direct threats from anti-Israel.
You mean the FBI warning?
Yeah.
About threats.
Right. The FBI was warning them of these threats that could happen if they held.
They were warning the organizers of the event.
They were organized. That's right.
That's kind of scary.
It
what
is.
They do. What the organizers do.
Well, first they actually had one venue, and then all the threats started coming in from these anti-Israel extremist jihadists here in our country, and so because of that, they said, hey, you need to, move the venue or end the venue. And they said, no, we're going to go ahead and move the venue. So they moved the venue outside of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, about 20 miles actually out of Fort Worth. And then it happened again. Those same anti-Israel extremists found out where they're going to be. And once again, all of the pressure came, from them of threats, direct threats from, that the FBI was conveying to them and local law enforcement. And they said, we got to pull out. And so it's not happening.
It's if people were not aware of the level of anti-Semitism in this country, they better be now, because you look at the university campuses. Within hours after the October 7th, 2023 massacre in Israel, we had pro-Hamas demonstrators on university campuses. Just in the last 2 weeks, you had that young Israeli couple assassinated outside a museum in Washington, D.C. And then you had the incident in Boulder, Colorado last week, where there was a peaceful demonstration drawing attention to the people still being held by Hamas terrorists. And they were attacked by a guy, a pro-Islamic terrorist guy who was in this country illegally from Egypt and setting people on fire. Just innocent people who were there with a peaceful demonstration. And now, John, you have this conference that you were going to attend. The FBI warning people.
That's right.
That if you go ahead with this, people could be hurt and perhaps killed.
And this was just a conference, like you said, this was really not political.
No, everybody, of course, these are people who just love the land of Israel. Some of them Jewish people. They're peace-loving people.
Right. Yeah. There wasn't anything really controversial about that.
Absolutely not.
But the FBI warned, hey, we've had a threat against the conference. But the FBI, it was the conference organizers who decided to cancel it.
That's right. That is correct.
What was the name of the conference?
The Israel Summit.
Right. Is it annual?
It is actually. This was the second one that they had scheduled. Last year, they had some of the same things happening with some threats, but Dave Ramsey stepped in and gave them a venue because the first venue they had canceled, and then Dave Ramsey stepped in and had the security for them and everything.
Yeah.
That actually happened.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so you planning to go back to Israel anytime soon, or?
I am actually. That's a good question because June 22nd we're going to actually bring some of the AFR, AFA staff members there as part of the Israeli government's bringing us in, and so we'll be sending back some reports coming up after June 22nd.
That's cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Chris Woodward going.
Yeah.
Oh, Chris, gotta go.
Right.
Yeah. First time in God's country.
That's right. I'm excited to be there in the land with you.
Well, that's literal, Chris.
It is. Yes, I'm in it. Yeah, the Lord knows what's on
my heart. A lot
of
people say this is God's country, depending on where they live.
Oh, no. I'm not one of
them. I know. I'm kidding. But I'm saying that this really is God's country.
Yeah. It's funny because here in Mississippi, we have a lot of places. Now, we pronounce it Bethel, okay? But there's Bethel Baptist churches, there's Bethel roads, there's all kinds of Bethels. I actually have the opportunity to see the actual Bethel and some other things. So looking forward to it.
Yeah,
absolutely looking forward. This whole thing with the canceling of this is just really troubling. You have to wonder, is it safe in America to publicly stand with Israel? It's just a question. I mean, we stand with Israel and the Jewish people, but you have to ask that question.
Yeah, that's actually in a soundbite here from one of the people that John has been in talks with about the Israel Guys event being canceled. Here now is a soundbite from a guy named Luke Hilton of the Israel Guys talking to CBN about how unsafe it is these days in America, of all places. Clip 15.
What it feels like is that Jews and Christians can no longer gather publicly in support of Israel and America. Crazy as that sounds, that's exactly what it feels like right now. It's hard to believe that we're at this point. Our security director, who was working with us for the event, his father fought in World War II, and he said, honestly, it feels like Germany in 1939. We try to have a simple pro-Israel event. We're talking about a peaceful gathering, 600 people in Dallas, Texas, of all places. And the goal is simply to educate people to stand publicly, peacefully in support of Israel. Just the fact that we cannot have an event like that in America today, Texas of all places, and honestly, this is a question I'm asking myself. What does that mean for the state of America today?
Yes.
Well, okay, so I don't know. I don't think my reaction would be, I share the gentleman. Do you know that fella?
I do know him personally. He's a great guy with Hayuvel and the Israel Guys.
Yeah, I share his concern there, but I would say under normal conditions, this is not a controversial subject or event, right? They've had them over the years, right?
Right.
So, but I would say right now it's heightened. The emotional reaction of people who want to do harm to Israel and to Jews is heightened because of the war in Gaza. What's going on in Gaza right now. So all the news stories that you see that say, well, the Israeli army killed 20 more Palestinians today, 3 children and 5 women, then that raises the emotional charge of people who maybe are a little unstable in the head anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And like the fella out in Boulder, Colorado.
Yeah.
So I hope and pray that this will subside, and I think it will with time. But still, right now, if you're an event organizer like this and you get a call from the FBI, that's a tough place to be in, because you're saying that I'm going to go forward with this event to defy those who would try to stop us. But at the same time, you have to say, well, if the FBI is warning me, I don't want to have a terrorist attack on my event and then me be responsible for the deaths of some people or whatever because I didn't heed the warning of the FBI. That makes sense.
And the threats are real. Just going back to what happened to that young couple in Washington, D.C. in the last couple of weeks. They were assassinated.
Yeah.
They were assassinated.
Yeah.
What happened in Boulder, Colorado, this guy that's been arrested in Boulder, Colorado, has confessed to what he did. He had Molotov cocktails, more than a dozen in his car. He lit some of them to light people on fire. So, is there any wonder why this group canceled the event? Because the threats are real.
Yeah.
Coming out of the event in Boulder, Colorado, I heard one of the demonstrators that was there that was not injured. He said, we, the Jews, are being hunted in America right now. Now, that's a very scary thought. That takes you back to World War II. We are being hunted because we are Jews, not because we are bad people. We are living in this country.
They would say that those who would attack them would say, yeah, they are bad people because they're Jews, and Jews control Israel, and Israel's killing the Palestinian children. I'm just telling you what they would say.
Right.
Yeah. By the way, you mentioned the figures that the mainstream media use for the number of Palestinians being killed in Gaza. Do you know what the source of those figures is?
Hamas.
The Hamas-controlled health group.
Yeah, it's called Gaza Health Ministry in Associated Press stories, but the terrorists control the health ministry.
By the way, Israel is saying that they did kill one of the top Hamas leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have this story?
Yes, I'm pulling it up right now.
Because it took place in the last 2 or 3 days, right?
Yes.
It did.
Right.
And if you have the story, let me know when
I
you
do.
get to it. You have it now?
Yeah, Hamas chief The Shadow was killed in airstrike on Gaza hospital, IDF confirms, as it releases footage of secret tunnels. It's a Daily Mail story to which I will post on our Facebook page.
Okay, so, here again, you have a Hamas leader operating terrorist activities against Israel from an underground tunnel system, bunker system, that is under a hospital, according to the Israeli Israeli government. Is that?
I think that's accurate.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but this would be another top Hamas leader that Israel has, as you mentioned, hunted down, that have found out where he was and killed him.
Yes.
Because as long as there's a war going on between Hamas and Israel, Israel's trying to take out the leadership as much as they can of Hamas. True?
Yeah. Another interesting development on the Gaza war. Last week it was reported, and the term that was used by Netanyahu's office is Palestinian clans. That was the term that he used. But what it is groups of Palestinians that are now joining up with Israel.
Mm-hmm.
They've had enough of Hamas leadership. We got to remember this. Not all Palestinians in Gaza support Hamas.
Right.
They are there under unfortunate circumstances. But there are now these groups, as I say, Netanyahu call them clans, who are helping Israel.
And reports are that Israel actually provided some weapons to them, or at least some rifles. So that's some of the reports that are coming out on that.
Yeah.
Okay, John. Well, thanks for stepping in, being with us.
And I just as I leave here, I want to encourage everybody who's listening here today to stand up and speak out. When you hear Jew hatred going on around you, you hear people saying, "Oh, those extremist Israeli Jewish people there in the land of Israel, in Judea and Samaria." Please speak out against that. Stand up, be strong, and stand for Israel. I just want to encourage everybody to do that.
Can I add to that? Be very suspicious of the mainstream media on how it reports on what Israel is doing or not doing.
That's right.
The mainstream media, for the most part, is all in with the the Palestinian side of this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. And sadly, even the Associated Press using Hamas-controlled figures.
And a great place to get your news and information is American Family News. By the way, they have a brand new Israel Middle East category, so you can go there. You guys do an awesome job. So afn.net, you need to check that out.
We support Israel unapologetically.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, John. John Riley.
Thank you.
All right. You're listening to today's issues. Next story, Chris.
Well, that was a bitter X feud. I wanted to say Twitter feud because that's what it used to be called. Now it's called X. And there's been a back and forth between athletes turned activists, Simone Biles, famous gymnast, and Riley Gaines, famous swimmer from the University of Kentucky that had to compete against men, including Leah Thomas. Will wants to go by Leah, but we still call him Will because that's how he was born and that's what his mama called him. So Simone Biles over the weekend, for some bizarre reason, just started to tweet or post some nasty things to Riley Gaines, saying that, she needs to be more inclusive. It's disgusting how you're acting. And Riley Gaines has just been using her platform to criticize states like Minnesota, which over the weekend allowed a girls softball team with a male to compete against female teams. That team with a male ended up winning it all. Riley Gaines was on television saying this is terrible. We need to stop this. It's not just in Minnesota. It's nationwide in various states. Simone Biles gets on X and says nasty things about Riley Gaines, including, why don't you go pick on someone your own size, a man, which was just kind of weird. I mean, Riley Gaines is 5'9", which is, I guess, above average height for a female in the U.S., but it's not like she's 8 feet tall or, ripped like she's the guy from Reacher or something. I mean, it's bizarre, and a lot of people have been weighing in on this. I saw a news segment this morning on Fox where Michelle Tafoya, who used to work for NBC, said she's taking sides with Riley Gaines here.
I just don't understand the position being taken, the pro-trans position by certainly the media, by certain politicians, et cetera, that it just, and we've talked about this before, what it's doing to girls' sports when these males, these biological males, are allowed to play against other girls. It's certainly not a political winner for the Democratic Party, but it is so intellectually and biologically untrue. Mm-hmm. A boy cannot say I'm a girl just by saying I'm a girl. I mean, it's totally outside the bounds of scientific reality.
I was kind of surprised by this. I didn't know what Simone Biles, all of her political views were. She's, considered the greatest of all times by many in terms of her gymnastic credentials. Yeah. I mean, she's multiple gold medals over multiple Olympics, so that's unquestioned. However, for her to go on her social media platform and start supporting boys playing girls sports is, as Riley Gaines, and criticizing Riley Gaines, who's the face of opposition to boys playing girls sports, was weird. Because if Simone Biles had to compete against males, she wouldn't win.
That's right.
There's a reason we have a separation in all athletics between males and females in competition, because to have males competing against females is unfair, and everybody knows it.
Yes.
Well, it's also illegal. I mean, it violates a woman's Title IX rights to have to compete against a male. That's something they've said since day one.
Yeah. Well, they're doing it, though.
Oh, yeah. They're thumbing their nose at the law.
But here's the kind of the bizarro thing that people on the left who's like Simone Biles, I guess, she says that Riley Gaines is bullying trans people.
Yeah.
Because she's just saying, no, boys should not be allowed, biological boys. There are no other kind, by the way, but I'm saying that for the sake of our discussion here. Biological males should not compete against biological females in athletics. That's all Riley Gaines is saying, how unfair that is. The people like Simone Biles, I would guess, would say this. No, the person you're talking about is, in fact, a girl. Because, why? And you might say, well, no, the chromosomes don't say that, and the genitalia don't say that, and the muscular development doesn't say that, and the lung capacity doesn't say that. So what are you basing that on, Simone, that this guy can call himself a girl and we're supposed to go with it? I'm guessing they would say, and I've heard some of them say this, they identify as a female. So they're basically, what you're saying is their feelings.
Yeah.
We should subscribe gender based on somebody's feelings.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Mm.
So that's, as I call that bizarro, to a average person or somebody who thinks, you go, no, that doesn't add up. Just because somebody says there's something, I can say I'm, as people say, I can say I'm a 7-foot Chinese person, but that doesn't make me one.
No.
But what these people on the left would say would be, that if they were going to be consistent, they would have to say, yes, if Tim says he's a 7-foot Chinese person, you need to go with that.
Yeah.
Because that's what he is identifying as. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Once you start down this road, and we have started down this road in this country, particularly in blue states, what's next? I'd like to fly a 747. I identify as a 747 pilot, UPS.
Right.
Let me fly your 747. Everybody would say, you're a nut.
Right.
We're not going to do that.
Right.
That's foolish.
Right.
Well, this is foolish.
Yeah.
This is absolutely foolish.
Yeah. I would say, if these people want to call themselves, if you have men who want to call themselves women or put on some makeup and a dress and like Bruce Jenner did and call himself Caitlyn, that's one thing. They're adults.
Mm-hmm.
I don't agree with it, and I think it's sad, tragic, but that's their choice. But when you have athletics, that is one of the basic premises of what athletics is built on is fairness in competition, then you can't be for some males competing against females. You just can't in terms of fair. In fact, that's why Riley Gaines is talking back here on Twitter to Simone Biles, because Simone Biles' arguments are just strictly emotional.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing scientific or logical about what she's saying. But I was surprised that she used her platform. So, what is that platform? What am I trying to say?
X.
Yeah,
Twitter.
X, but platform. I'm using a pun.
Mm.
You see what I did there?
Used her platform too.
I said pun unintended with her platform.
Yes.
For a gymnast,
Gotcha,
right?
gotcha.
See what I said? See what I did there?
I give you a 10.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Anyway, I'm surprised that she chose this issue to make herself look foolish over. So.
I mean, she just kind of came out of nowhere. It was like no one over the weekend thought, where is Simone Biles on this issue? And then she just goes after Riley Gaines.
But it's also like Riley Gaines said, there was another sports star in the world of soccer. Help me out with her name. That's retired now. But she was a very famous soccer player. Rapinoe?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Megan
Rapinoe, who is a very famous women's soccer player. Mm-hmm. Well, when she got ready to retire, that's when she came out in favor of men playing girls soccer. and as Riley Gaines said, she came out in favor of males playing female soccer after she's retiring.
Yeah.
You know, and so she changed her view and then pulled the ladder up.
That was convenient.
Yeah. Okay, we'll be back momentarily with more of today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Stay with us.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
As a federal or state employee, you have the opportunity to support the American Family Association through the combined federal campaign by designating a monthly payroll deduction using 12037. You help AFA continue to fight for your family. So when you complete your CFC form, remember, AFA's number is 12037. And thank you for your help.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty Pugh. With the full support of Democrats in California, rioters continued to burn and loot in Los Angeles Sunday, even spitting on and burning an American flag. President Trump says he will do whatever is necessary to restore law and order.
What is the bar for sending Marines?
What I think it is, if we see danger to our country and to our citizens, we'll be very, very strong in terms of law and order. It's about law and order.
Lead on the people, sir. Secretary,
we got to see what we need. We'll send whatever we need to make sure there's law and order.
Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says the president's move is prioritizing security.
President Trump is putting the safety of the communities that are being impacted by these riots and by these protests that have turned violent. And he's putting the safety of our law enforcement officers first. They're there at the direction of the president in order to keep peace and allow people to be able to protest, but also to keep law and order.
Federal officials are telling California leaders to crack down on the riots. Border Czar Tom Homan discussing California Governor Gavin Newsom's response after he accused Homan and President Trump of overstepping their authority and deploying the National Guard.
But when you cross that line, you put hands on an ICE officer or you destroy property, or I say that you impede law enforcement or you're knowingly harboring, concealing illegal handling, that's a crime.
ABC News on Sunday suspended a senior correspondent following an unhinged rant on social media where he criticized White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller and President Trump. Shortly after midnight on Sunday, senior national correspondent Terry Moran wrote on X that Miller is, quote, richly endowed with the capacity for hatred. Moran also lambasted Mr. Trump, claiming his hatred is, quote, only a means to an end. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says this is why the American public doesn't trust the mainstream media.
This is unacceptable and unhinged rhetoric coming from someone who works at a major television network. But I think this speaks to the distrust that the American public have in the legacy media. And it's why in the White House press shop and in President Trump's White House, we have made so many significant and much needed changes to press access and transparency at the White House.
Another alarmist climate report says to prepare for record-breaking heat in the years ahead. But not everyone agrees. Robert Thornton tells us more.
The World Meteorological Organization and the UK Meteorological Office said there's an 80% chance the world will break another annual temperature record in 5 years. Dr. Cal Beisner of the Cornwall Alliance.
Climate models are extremely sophisticated mathematical structures. The problem is, how do we know whether it's garbage in and garbage out, or whether it's, good stuff in and good stuff out? The model is a guess. These models, on average, simulate 2 to 4 times as much warming as actually observed.
The report also warns of more extreme weather events.
When we actually look at observational data, we discover that there is no increase in the frequency or the severity of any extreme weather events. In fact, if anything, there's a slight downward trend in the frequency and the intensity of hurricanes.
Beisner added that the Earth's warming shows up mainly in the polar regions in the winter at night, and not toward the equator during the summer in the daytime, and that there isn't a significant increase in the frequency or intensity of heat waves, but there is a decrease in cold snaps. As a result, he said there are fewer weather and climate-related deaths, as cold outbreaks on average kill 10 to 20 times as many people per day than heat waves. I'm Robert Thornton.
U.S. stocks are drifting as the world's two largest economies begin talks on trade that could help avoid a recession. The S&P 500 unchanged, the Dow down 171 points, and the Nasdaq Composite added 0.4%. Markets are waiting to hear what comes of trade talks between the United States and China taking place in London. More news online at afn.net and download the AFN mobile app. I'm Rusty Pugh.
AFA Action takes attacks on the family seriously. The enemies of the family constantly employ new tactics to try to sneak past our radar. They know if we stand together, their evil plans will fail. Your gift to AFA Action allows us to stay vigilant against their onslaught. And if you give this month, you'll receive access to the Cultural Institute video When Your Faith is Illegal by Frank Harbor on AFA Stream as our thanks. You can make your gift today at afaaction.net.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues. Welcome back, I should say, to the radio program Today's Issues. Tim with Fred, and now Steve Paisley-Jordo joins us. Good morning, Brother Steve.
Good morning. It could be that someone's just now tuning in which case, welcome.
Yes, that's right.
Could be. You never know.
You never know.
Where have you been the last hour? That's what I want to know.
Well, thank you for listening to American Family Radio, wherever you may be joining us from. And have a good weekend, did you? Yeah?
Yeah. We're with my mother-in-law who lost her husband earlier, and so she's staying with us on the weekend, staying with her other daughter on the week. And so whatever we do, we do it with her, and she's just such a wonderful lady. And so
not every man can say that about their mother-in-law.
I'll have to.
Right?
My wife might be listening. No, but it's true. It's true.
I'm just kidding.
A joy to have her around.
The mother-in-law jokes, right?
This weekend was Decoration Day at the family church in Western Alabama.
Okay.
You know what Decoration Day is? It's where they go and they put flowers on the graves of family members that have been long deceased. They have a barbecue. It used to be a whole thing. The church would get together and have a sing, and then they'd go out. Now it's just, it's like 5 or 6 families get together, have a little picnic on the lawn of the church, and then go place the flowers and everything. So
I had this question last Friday.
Yeah.
On trivia.
Yes. I think I remember.
What's the difference between a cemetery and a graveyard?
Oh, no, I didn't hear that.
You know the difference?
No.
You, Fred? So a cemetery is, a graveyard is attached to a church.
Oh.
I say attached, adjacent to.
Property owned by.
Property owned by the church, because people who go into that church who've deceased, buried there over time. But a cemetery is a standalone burial site.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I didn't know that either till I found that out for the show.
Can't get too much of learning university.
Yeah,
that's good stuff.
Good point, Steve.
That's good stuff.
Very well said.
I've never heard of that.
The difference between
the two, yeah.
A graveyard and a cemetery. Yeah. Yep. All right. So, what's your first story, Steve?
Well, I want to build off what's going on in Los Angeles, as you guys have been talking about, just horrific riots going on.
You mean even now, right now?
No, it's early yet. It's 9:00. I don't think anything's popped up, but
the rioters haven't got up yet.
It's probably not.
It's California.
I know. It's like they got to have their coffee.
There doesn't look to be a whole lot of stopping it this day. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because I don't know if you know, but President Trump is planning a military parade on June 14th, which is this Saturday, I believe, a week from. It's Saturday. Mm-hmm. And there's a bunch of activist groups, more than 100 of them, getting together to organize what they're calling a No Kings event. And they claim, and they have a map out that shows more than 1,000 protests. Actually, 1,500 cities across all 50 states. The organizers say they'll get millions. Probably won't get that many. But my concern is that the protest, that the violence, the Antifa violence, kind of melds over into this nationwide city protest thing. And so I'm just putting that out there. I'm not wishing for it. I'm just, for what it's worth,
Why?
I'm a little worried.
I did not know. I'm sorry. I don't know how I missed this story.
Mm-hmm.
So President Trump is having a military parade?
A military parade where Army equipment, et cetera, et cetera.
That's what they do in communist
I
countries.
was going to say you've seen it in other countries. So I was going to say that, though.
They've had to do a lot of work in D.C. for this. A lot of work.
But
like for tanks rolling down streets and that sort of thing.
What?
Yeah.
We're going to have tanks rolling down the streets in D.C.?
They were
in a parade.
They were shipped
hopefully.
a couple of weeks ago from various places in the country.
Did you know about this?
Oh, yeah.
How long you known about this? Are you going to attend?
No.
We'll be busy.
It's been out there.
Okay, so it's Flag Day.
Yes.
On Saturday, June the 14th, Flag Day, this is Trump talking. On Saturday, June the 14th, which is Flag Day, we're honoring the 250th anniversary of the greatest fighting force in history, the United States Army. Oh, it's just the Army?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the 250th anniversary of the Army.
We will celebrate with a spectacular military parade in Washington, D.C. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, it's a...
but there will be tanks. And here's the thing. You have, 500 soldiers and pieces of military equipment marching in Washington, D.C., and you have a whole bunch of Antifa activists gathering to protest it?
I'm more worried about tearing up the roads.
They laid down some
tanks.
metal or something where the tracks of the tanks will be. So they're prepared for this.
All right. But you understand what I'm saying about in most of the time you see military parades in communist or dictator run countries. And it looks, I wouldn't advise Trump to do that because it looks bad. That's me talking. But I can understand if it's a celebration of the 250th birthday of the United States Army.
Yes.
So that's different. And it's Flag Day. But if you want to have a celebration of the Army over the 250th anniversary, then that's different than just having a, arbitrarily called military parade to I don't know, to make the commander-in-chief look good or something like that.
And tomorrow the president is going to Fort Bragg, all part of this 250th anniversary of the Army. So he'll be going to Fort Bragg tomorrow, give a speech. And
is it still called Fort Bragg?
It sure is. Trump changed it back the first month or so of his latest presidency.
Now, Trump said about the parade, the military parade, again, when is that coming up?
Saturday.
I think it's going to be better and bigger. You don't ever hear Trump say this. This is unusual language for him.
It's going to be huge, Tim.
But he said, I think it's going to be better and bigger than any parade we've ever had in this country.
There you go.
It's going to be something very, very special. I don't think we've ever done one quite like this. So get ready, people. Saturday, the better and bigger than any parade in the history of our country is going to be happening.
I'm gonna ask Brent to post this map, and Brent, you could probably Google.
But what you're warning,
King's riot map or protest map.
Excuse me. What you're warning against as it relates to this parade.
You're
saying there's protest around the country in response to this? Is that what you're saying?
The parade, but if they're still rioting in L.A. on Saturday, which could be, or if they decide to renew it, there are a lot of people who are saying this is going to be a.
I don't think this is going to happen, but we'll wait and see. This parade map,
protest map.
Protest map you gave me?
Yeah.
I don't think in Cheyenne, Wyoming, they're going to be protesting Trump's military.
They got a
Army
protest
parade.
organized here at Tupelo.
Yeah. We'll see how many people show up.
That's right.
I'm hoping you're right.
Yes.
All right. Next story, Steve.
All right. Our favorite climate activist from Sweden is in the news again. How dare she be absent from a public spotlight for so long.
He's been practicing, hadn't he, Fred?
Been waiting to do this.
Who might be Steve be imitating?
Greta Thunberg.
Okay.
Greta Thunberg is strangely not doing climate activism now. She's doing pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas stuff now. So, Israeli forces on Monday detained a boat that was sailing to Gaza, and Israeli Defense Force, the boat was named the Madeleine, and it says that they, using an international civilian communication system, the Israeli Navy instructed what they're calling the selfie yacht, because everybody down there is taking selfies, to change its course due to its approach toward a restricted area. Now, they say they're doing this to protest the fact that Israel is occupying it and that there's no aid being delivered. They're delivering aid. Patently false. But I want you to hear what Miss Greta Thunberg is saying now that she has been stopped by the Israeli IDF. Cut 11.
My name is Greta Thunberg and I am from Sweden. If you see this video, we have been intercepted and kidnapped in international waters by the Israeli occupational forces or forces that support Israel. I urge all my friends, family and comrades to put pressure on the Swedish government to release me and the others as soon as possible.
She's been kidnapped, Fred.
Yes, she's been kidnapped, and I tell you, it's really interesting. By the way, they're telling people they're delivering aid. The Israelis said they may have had half a truckload of food on that ship for people in Gaza.
It's not a big ship, and Israel's been delivering tons and tons and tons a day.
Yes, the Israeli army says, quoted at least in stories this morning, as saying what they want to do with Greta and her 20 friends is sit them down in a theater and make them watch what Hamas did on October 7th, 2023, to those 1,200 Israelis who they massacred, men, women, and children, and they took 250 hostages.
We can't even tell you half the things they did.
That's right.
It's too graphic.
So absolutely horrible. And so they want to expose Greta Thunberg and her friends to that. This is just nonsense. It's nothing but public relations. She hasn't been kidnapped. Those waters, Israel has cordoned off because they don't want anybody going in and delivering arms to the Hamas terrorists. So this is just theater. That's all it is.
It's exactly what it is.
Next story.
All right. Well, one of the reporters at ABC News, I think he heard he had maybe been imbibing just a little bit and had a late night tweet, a couple of them, and he tore into Stephen Miller. This is Terry Moran, who is, you guys might know, is a political correspondent at ABC. And he was tweeting, and this is what he tweeted. He said, Stephen Miller, which is an advisor to the president, he's really one of the most articulate defenders of the president's policies. So Moran tweeted out, Miller is a man who is richly endowed with a capacity for hatred. He's a world-class hater. You can just see this just by looking at him, because you can see that his hatreds are his spiritual nourishment. He eats hate. Trump is a world-class hater, but his hatred is only means to an end, and that end is his own glorification. That's his spiritual nourishment. Well, ABC said, no, this does not reflect us, and you should stop tweeting, and you're suspended.
What's the fella's name?
Terry Moran.
He's been around a while.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've seen his reports of probably a decade or more. So.
Yeah. Going back.
So he's a veteran ABC News guy.
So this morning on Fox, Dana Perino said that when she was White House correspondent for George W. Bush, he was the White House correspondent back then.
Yeah.
So ABC, which is, by the way, owned by Disney, has suspended him?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
I'm kind of surprised, but he just decided to go unleashed in his criticism of Stephen Miller. Again, President Trump's one of his top aides, and then Trump himself. Is it a wonder these news agencies have lost their credibility with the American people. Some of these mainstream news, they're not mainstream anymore. People aren't watching them like they used to. And obviously, some of that can be attributed to the rise of the internet and social media. You know, taking where people are getting their news more than they are if they're getting news at all. A lot of Americans are ignorant of everything but TikTok.
Yep.
But these news agencies of just like CNN and the Washington Post and the New York Times, they're just going so far left, and many of them have Trump derangement syndrome, like this fella does, that they can't even be objective at all anymore in their commentary.
No, they
even if you felt like this, you wouldn't say it like that if you're a newsman.
If you're a newsman,
yeah.
But this doesn't surprise me at all. When you read, when you view the way they cover the Trump White House, they hate Donald Trump. They hate the policies of conservative government.
Right.
That's the bottom line in all of this. They have become nothing more than lapdogs for the Democratic Party. That's the bottom line in all of this. Caroline Levitt, by the way, responded to this Moran story, cut number 9.
This is unacceptable and unhinged rhetoric coming from someone who works at a major television network. But I think this speaks to the distrust that the American public have in the legacy media. And it's why in the White House press shop and in President Trump's White House, we have made so many significant and much needed changes to press access and transparency at the White House.
Yeah. They're not going to allow the mainstream media to control the message anymore. By the way, President Trump, if you view, when he does these live events at the White House, he'll take questions from anybody, but he's not afraid to call them out right on the spot, whether it's CNN, ABC, NBC. He'll look right at the reporter, live television.
Right.
You are a terrible reporter, and you work for a terrible news agency.
Yes. The worst.
All right. So you're listening to today's issues, but ABC News, they've lost a lot of folks, as have all the mainstream news media.
Yes.
Because of the reasons you mentioned, Fred.
But, it's costing. Here's what I don't understand. It's costing them money.
Yeah.
They're losing viewers.
Right.
They're losing readers if it's a newspaper. And when you lose audience, you cannot charge as much for your commercials.
Right. I know.
It doesn't make sense.
It's like self-defeating.
Yes.
All right, next story, Steve.
All right. We keep documenting the disarray within the Democrat Party, and it goes all the way to the top, at least to the Democrat Party infrastructure. You remember that the DNC, the Democrat National Committee, which is the organization responsible for fundraising and setting priorities for elections, getting candidates and funding them, they elected 2 co-presidents. One was a guy named Ken Martin, and the other was a guy, he's actually the vice chair, David Hogg. If you remember that name, David Hogg is a anti-gun activist who was on campus at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting, and it kind of sent him off on this path of no guns. And since then, he's branched out to just about everything radical and liberal he's embracing. So he's kind of the squad that's not in Congress, but he's in the DNC. Anyway, he has been promising to raise money to run against incumbent Democrats who he doesn't think are left-wing enough. This is the DNC the co-chair of the DNC that wants to raise money to unseat Democrats because he doesn't think that they're left-leaning enough. Well, we're getting a little peek inside the drama. Someone got a copy of a Zoom call, some kind of online conference that they were having. And Ken Martin, who is the other chairman, David Hogg was on the call, but you won't hear him in this particular cut. But this is the disarray that's going on within the DNC, Cut 12.
I'm just quite frustrated to be in this position because what you've done, whether you like it or not, or know it or not, David, is I'm trying to, no one knows who I am, right? I'm trying to get my sea legs underneath of me and actually develop any amount of credibility so I can go out there and raise the money and do the job I need to put ourselves in a position to win. And again, I don't think you intended this, but you essentially destroyed any chance I have to show the leadership that I need to.
Who was that?
That is a gentleman named Ken Martin. He is the chairman of the DNC, the Democrat National Committee.
Feel so bad for him.
I know.
This is the great divide in the Democratic Party right now.
Yeah. Oh, between the
liberals and the ultra liberals.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
Or I would say between the whacked and the wackadoodles.
Yes. Yes.
They got serious problems, and I don't think the Republicans should try to help them.
No.
If you see your opponent digging a hole, don't
Let them
take
dig.
the shovel away.
Yeah. The Democrats, their brand right now is in the toilet, so to speak, and now that may turn around. I mean, you have ebbs and flows, and we've seen people say, "Well, this party's over; it'll never recover," and then they recover, and then the other party goes down. So, the American people are fickle today when it comes to Republicans and Democrats, seems like.
But the radical left in the Democratic Party right now, it's like David Hogg.
It's hurting them.
It's AOC. AOC ain't going to shut up anytime soon. She's just going to go out there.
Right.
She and her friends, they are out there, and they are as radical left as possible. They honestly believe that they will take over control of the Democratic Party. They believe that their brand of politics is able to defeat the Republicans right now.
Go ahead.
The people like her, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the people on the far left in the Democrat Party, if there's any lifeblood or energy in the party, they're the ones. That's where it is.
Yes.
Because that's what they view the establishment of the Democrat Party like people who are real conservatives view the establishment of the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
Don't trust them, and would rather have people who are truly committed to the cause rather than people who are paying lip service to it.
Yep.
See what I'm saying?
Yep.
So that's what's going on with the Democrat Party right now. They're trying to figure out who is in charge, because the old guard, the establishment, they are that they see the causes that the far left represents as causes that are not acceptable to the American people and to the American voters, and it's going to cause them to lose elections. I'm just saying that's and I say if you flip that over to the Republican Party, that fight's also been going on for decades between people who really are conservatives and people who are just Republican, as they call them, rhinos in name only. So
it seems on the Republican side, the big issue though is money. Is going to cut taxes, cut spending, et cetera, et cetera. On the Democrat side, it's this worldview.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the radical left is all in, for instance, on biological males playing in female sports.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Even though the poll from AP
and the mainstream Democrats know that that's a loser.
That's right.
For them.
That's right.
That's the same problem they also have with Israel.
Yeah.
The far left, they're against Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And but the mainstream Democrats, there's a lot of Jews.
Yes.
Who make up. Chuck Schumer is a Jew.
Yes.
And he's the leader of the Democrats in the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of, you know what I'm saying? There's some tension there.
Yeah.
Definitely on that side. Well, we're just about out of time. Steve, tell our listeners if they want to get the daily news brief from you and Fred and the team, how do they do that?
Go to afn.net. You can sign up, and we will send you a daily news brief written and compiled by Jody and Billy and our.
Hey, who doesn't want a news brief?
I know, right?
Compiled by Jody and Billy. Come on. Huh?
It's all you'll get from us, by the way. We're not sending your emails out to anybody else. all the stories we talk about here on this show, plus more.
Jody and Billy and the boys. Why am I hearing that song? Is that Willie Nelson? Who is that?
It would be Willie, yeah.
All right, thank you.
My pleasure.
Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, have a great day, everybody. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
We're going to be going back to the Holy Land in March.